Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So continuing to work on the lower left corner here. I've almost reached the bottom of this piece. Got quite a bit of Goron link done yesterday. Yeah, his body was only a few colors, so that went by really fast. Yeah, just stitching up quick. We're now at, yeah, I left it at 72.27%, so it's a palindrome. Okay, so I'm working more from the bottom up today. That's just sort of how the colors are going. I kind of worked, well, my diagonal's almost a horizontal right now just because, like I said, of the way the colors are going. That's sort of the shape that made more sense to me, so. That's what I ended up doing. Yeah, I think I feel safe to say that it is spring here. It's actually warm enough to walk outside again, so that's really nice. Some fresh air. Okay, 38, 37. I hope it's nice where you are. Not too hot, not too cold. Okay. Yeah, I have kind of a love-hate relationship because I don't like being hot and sweaty. I'd rather be cold, but I don't like how dark and gloomy it is in the winter, so you know. I always say if I could have year-round autumn, that'd be perfect for me. Yeah. Just cool enough that, you know, you're not sweaty. There's a lot fewer bugs at that point, but it's still warm enough you can go outside without having to bundle up, and there's no snow to have to shovel, so. Yeah, it's funny because like in sci-fi, you know, they would show climate-controlled paradise islands and they're always hot, and I'm going, no, I want one that's autumn. Yeah, because it's interesting. They said the seasonal affective disorder, which is generally known as the winter blues, but there's some people who have reverse, and it's actually the hotter weather that triggers it for them. So, yeah. Yeah, winter's not too bad, I find, until I get around to, say, January, February, and then I'm so done with it. So we got a wall here behind Goron Link, and then it's got a bit of like brick pattern, so keeps it from being all one color, but does go a little bit faster. I got a few threads parked here simply because of the way they're all kind of separate bricks, so yeah. May come to the point where I have to end one of them. We shall see. Okay. So some confetti, but yeah, so I can zoom out and show I got a lot of Goron Link done. You can see his belly there was yeah, like 3 different colors, so yeah, it went pretty quick. Okay, let's make sure I'm in the right spot. Yeah. Okay, this is just long enough for the one stitch that it's parked in. Perfect. Yeah, and then we'll get his legs and feet down here, although I think that's more over to the right. And then we might, I think we'll probably reach the main link in the center this month. Yeah, I'm hoping to finish partway through next month, so May, or it might take till the end of May. We'll see. It all depends on how it goes. So, just trying not to stitch over the grid line there. Have to be careful. It kind of gets wonky sometimes. That's one drawback to the stitch grid lines. Like, I do like them because I can see where they are even after areas that have been stitched on, but it is more work, so, and you know, they can get pulled out of place, so there is that drawback too. Okay, this piece is not very long, and we'll see what we can get out of it. Let's see what else I've got around here. Okay. Okay, so what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do those three and those three, and then I'll have to start a different thread later. Now, this color kind of, it's outlining the brick, so it kind of is traveling all through this area, so either way I'm going to end up with more than one thread of it. I can see that already. Yeah, so I saw recently they're apparently making a new Star Trek series called Starfleet Academy, so that'll be looking forward to that. They're apparently going to start making it in 2024, or maybe it'll be released in 2024, but either way, I'll be looking forward to that. Yeah, I loved Star Trek Picard, and I'm really sad that this year is the final season. I wish there was more, but oh well, what can you do, right? Okay, so I've got a couple threads here to juggle. Yeah, just because they kind of ended up converging in the same area. And got another one up here. Let's see how long that is. Yeah, that's, like, I think I just attached that one. It's pretty long. Okay, so we may end up ending one of these at some point, but for now I'm going to try and juggle both of them. So I'm going to do one row with this thread and then park it below, and then do one row with the other thread back and forth like that. And let's see what happens after that. Decide when I get there. So sometimes I would end one of these and just carry on with one, and sometimes I do this. Really doesn't matter. You could pick whatever works better for you. If you prefer to have fewer working threads, then you know, you could end one. So I wonder if we will reach the bottom of the design by the end of this session. It's one more square below where I've worked here and a couple more rows below the bottom grid lines. So we'll see. If not, I should reach that the next day or so. Yeah, it depends a lot on the colors. Sometimes it just makes more sense to start going out to the right rather than continuing to work downwards. It depends on the shape there. Let's see, how long is this one? Yeah, and that's pretty long too. So I think I'm gonna tie one of these off. Although, yeah, I can actually see more than one path I'm gonna need, so not yet. So I'm going to do these 5 here. Yeah, so I have like 4 in this area. Sometimes that just happens if it branches off quite a bit. So I don't like to carry a lot across the back when I can help it. Uses up more thread that way, and there's more chance of catching it and pulling it and distorting the work. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is part there. And then this one, yeah, I think, oh, this one actually may be just enough for this row anyway, and then I think that might be it. So yeah, worked out actually. Yeah, I'll tie it off once I've finished these stitches I've highlighted. Yeah, there's a few areas here where there's still some bigger blocks of color. So this is definitely less confetti heavy than my last project, which was almost all confetti through the whole thing. I was very happy with the finished result, but yeah, I definitely needed to take breaks sometimes because my brains were fried. Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, so mark those as finished. Okay, I think, let's see what I'm gonna do here. Definitely going to end up with more than one of this thread. So what I think I'm going to do is and then I'm going to do those ones. Sorry, I hope my dishwasher is not too loud in the background there. Some days it's louder than others. I don't really know why. I use the same settings most of the time, so. Okay, so now I'm going to add a new thread up here. Yeah, there's a fair amount of this color around here all scattered around, so I'm going to end up with threads everywhere, I think. So we'll see if I can hit 73% by the end of this discussion. We were at more than 72 1/4, so yeah, we'll see. Depends how long I stitch, but I've had people say they'd like to have longer sessions, so when time permits, I can try and do that for y'all. Okay, so that one there. Yeah, hard to believe I'm on my last pass already. This pattern has stitched up very quickly. Okay, didn't thread that yet. I was just checking the length earlier. Probably be adding another thread of that 158 that I just added. Okay. Yeah, So we're gonna end up with another one there. Just gonna take a peek. Okay. Okay, what I might do is I'm gonna do a short piece and just do these two stitches up here by themselves. Yeah. And not carry it yet. We'll see. I'll probably add new threads later, but at the moment I don't need to, so yeah, what threads I have available is and how long they are is one of the biggest factors usually. Decides where I decide to join and where I decide to park. Lots and lots of blues. This is 125 colors in this pattern, and I'm thinking that like at least a third of those are blue, if not more. Probably what drew me to it. I love blue. It's my favorite. Okay, so that one. There we go. Okay, so it's all blue today. Have to go further up the diagonal to get to any other color, I think. There might be the occasional purple stitch in here, but yeah, for the moment, it is all blue. Okay, so I can see that it's going to be a while till I get to this thread. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to unthread it because yeah, I have to do all the stuff above it before I get to that. So I'm going to instead carry on this way. Okay, 791. Doubling up my thread, I often seem to pull on the wrong side when it's uneven. I'm trying to even it and I end up accidentally pulling on the shorter side and pulling it right out of my hand. Okay, so what I'm going to do is these two here. Ended up stitching over my grid line anyway, oh well. It happens. Okay, and then I'm going to carry this thread up this way. I'm going to use shorter ones for the couple scattered stitches there. Oh, I didn't quite go down in the proper spot there. Stitch was all wonky. There. That's better. If I don't go properly down through the hole too, the resistance when I pull on the thread can feel different. There's more than when it goes properly through the hole. Okay. Okay, so I think this one I'm going to end off as well because, yeah, another one parked close by for those stitches is still long enough to use. And it's closer to carry it from there than from all the way over here. So, yeah, this one I'm going to tie off. Save the leftovers for later. And more blue. 37.50. Okay, well that's so I can do one stitch and park it. Yeah. Sometimes just how this method works out. Although I can see there's some bigger blocks coming in this area. Okay. 8, 2, 3. A lot of leftover pieces of this color. It's a very popular one. This is another one I had to buy a few boxes of 12 to do all my projects. Here we are. Okay. Okay. Looked like it was wrong, but it wasn't. Okay, let's see. All right. Another one I'm going to need more than one thread. I hate when that happens. Try to smooth it out and instead it made a knot. Ah, good. Okay, then I'm going to add another one right there. Okay, pretty soon I'm going to be able to do a bunch in a row of the same color, I think. Okay, let's just make sure I'm in the correct spot. You have to be careful because sometimes I've done it like, say, up here when it was supposed to be down here, and then I have to try and figure out what I did wrong later. That wasn't fun. Okay, so just move all these aside for now. So focusing on further down the diagonal. So. Still some switching for a bit until I get there. It almost makes it more satisfying when I get to a bigger block of color. I don't have to change colors so often, but I do find that changing colors helps, yeah, avoid getting pain. When I was stitching his belly yesterday, I had to force myself to take a break because my arms started getting sore. And I wanted to be able to stitch, the next day. So yeah, I've learned don't push through the pain or You'll just give yourself more pain. At least if you can help it anyway. I know sometimes you're in a situation where that just isn't an option to take a break. Pardon me. Okay, so okay, now I get to do a few in a row. When I switch to that number 2 color, I should get to do a whole bunch down this column. Pardon me. One nice thing about the big blocks of colors, yeah, you can really see the progress you're making. Yeah, sometimes when you're stuck in the slogging through the confetti, you can feel like you're not making any progress. Okay, yeah, I can see. I'm just gonna check here. I've got more than one thread again, but it's gonna branch off, so I've already decided where I'm gonna park this. Because I've got one thread that I'm gonna make that travel down here to the left, the other one it's gonna split off to the right. Because yeah, this is still long enough to be used later. There, and I'm going to unthread it because I'm not going to get to it for a bit, I can tell. So yeah, there's going to be several rows I can do. Oops, meant to highlight, not move it. can see I can't pierce through it. I caught it with the tip of the needle, and all it did was push it upwards. So that's why I really like to use this Sulky monofilament thread, because it doesn't snag. You can't pierce it with the needle like you could with ordinary sewing thread, because yeah, I did grit a couple times with that, and removing it was not fun. Right, I always forget I can't pull this any higher because the edge of the design is right there at the bottom. You can only pull this in as far as the design goes. Oh, come on, you. There we go. It's got a tiny knot, but it's so small, I'm going to ignore it. Is going to end up on the correct side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin stitch over here, and that ensures the knot is across the back. So a bit lost while carrying it over, but I don't want knots on the front, even teeny ones, just in case. It would look funny. Still get a few more, so I'm going to park this right there, and then fill in again, coming for the top a bit. This one is not very long, but we'll get what we can out of it. So up close, it's hard to see the difference between these different shades of blue, but I do know when I back up, it'll look good. It'll be worth it. Yeah, so we're not doing anything exciting for spring break, just staycation. Yeah, it was funny. I saw a meme the other day saying, you know, I hate when you go out to eat and the waiter asks what else you're doing. It's like, we're boring. This is the outing, you know, going to the restaurant. Yeah. A lot of times it used to be, you know, dinner and a movie, but now I'd rather just now that you can, you know, stream movies at home, often even the same day they're in the theater, I'd rather do that. Sit on my own couch where it's comfortable, and I can pause it and go use the bathroom whenever I need to. So yeah. Yeah, we did that with the new Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. Yeah, because we saw the older ones from the early 2000s with Tobey Maguire. We kind of liked in the third one they managed to bring him and Andrew Garfield together, the three guys who played Spider-Man in the same movie, because they were like from different, you know, timelines or universes or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Goodness. Stuck my needle into my sweater there. Yeah, let's not do that. poke myself with it later. Okay, let's see what I can get from this. Okay, this one's not too short, so. I think we may reach the bottom of the design in this session. That'll be cool. Okay, just managed to get that row done, and then we'll add another thread. And we are less than 10 rows from the bottom. And as usual at the sides, make sure all the ends are towards the center of the design and not going past the edge. Okay, 8, 2, 3. I got 2 leftover strands of the same size. So I think instead of a loop start, I'm going to use an away thread. And I usually go this way, but I don't want the end to go past the edge. So instead I'm going to do my away thread from this side. That way any remaining bit on the back is going to be going towards the center of the design. So, oh, did I pull that too hard? No, I didn't. Okay. Guess there's a tiny knot in this one too. So someone asking how I check it secure. So after a couple of stitches, just give it a little tug, and if it's not secure, the whole thing will pop right out. So, and I kind of, so the thread is here, so when I'm coming up from the back, I kind of go further than the hole and kind of scrape the tip of my needle towards the hole. That way it makes sure that I capture that thread across the back there. So then just pull this back to the wrong side. There. Can't see it, and the ends are towards the center, so you will not have anything showing past the edge. I think this will be the right length to do all these stitches in this area here. Maybe a bit left over, we'll see. But as there's a knot in it, I may just discard that bit. You can kind of only get away with stitching with a knot if it's very small, so it won't. So I did that once where I had to really pull it through, and then I didn't realize it enlarged the holes, and then later when I backed up, was like, oh, you could really see where that had happened. So yeah, you don't want that. See if I've got to pin stitch this away to make sure the knot's on the other side. Yeah, once again, being a bear, hey? Yeah. A little extra thread on the back, but oh well. Okay, so if you do a long press, then you get an option to select all the unhighlighted stitches or all unfinished highlighted stitches in a square or on a page, and then you can just mark them all off at once. Oops, we don't want that. Let's try that again. Especially useful if, say, you've been stitching a different way and you want to use, and then you get Pattern Keeper and you want to update your progress. Yeah, you can do it more quickly then. If you do it without a color highlighted, then it will just do, so like if I have this unhighlighted and then I do this, then it would let me pick all of them in the whole square or the whole page and then do them at once. So very useful. Okay. Okay, do these two. Great. I'm gonna do those, and if there's any left, park it over to the right to do the. So we did reach the bottom. This is the bottom here, 2 stitches past this bottom grid line because it's 192 stitches for the height of this pattern. Ooh, giving myself a knot there. Oh, almost, but I think, yeah, I did manage to smooth it out. I can feel on the back. Oh, unless, oh, I hate when I do that. Yeah, occasionally if the needle goes back through the same working thread, you can end up with this situation that just happened. So try to trim those little ends off. See if I can, there. Yeah, if you do that, then you can often get it to release. So you have to sacrifice a bit, but then means you don't have to tie off the thread at that point. Okay, so park that there. All right, 791. Those pieces are too short, so let's get a new entire thread. Again, I'm gonna have quite a few here of this color. I'm gonna have more than one thread attached, but then it's such a bunch of stitches here, you would have needed more than one thread to do it anyway, even if you were stitching it cross country, so it works out the same in my mind. did it again. Yeah, missed the spot. Okay. Trying to be on the correct side of my grid line there so I won't stitch over it. Okay. All right, back up a bit. This should be just enough for these 4. Oh, stretch a little. Yeah, just barely. Don't think I could have got another half stitch out of it and still had enough left to secure it at that point. Oh, come on. Darn it. There. Instead of going smoothly through the eye, it was shredding. I hate that. Okay, I think maybe it's this needle. So I just trimmed it and it did it again. So I'm gonna probably discard that one. 'Cause yeah, if it keeps happening with the same needle, then it's probably the needle and not the thread that is to blame. Yeah, they do wear out eventually. I find that's usually the problem. They don't break, it's, yeah, they get rough and then they start damaging the embroidery floss. So then they need to be replaced at that point. Yeah, because I use multiple needles, it's kind of hard to say how long I use a needle for before it gets to that point. Although when I used to stitch cross country with just one needle, I found I was having to replace it every 2 or 3 months. So looking at way the shapes the colors make and kind of trying to plan ahead a bit, although I can't plan ahead too much. Sometimes yeah, it's just too much information to hold in my head at once. So that's why I've never been good at chess. I can't hold that many possibilities in my brain at once. I forget the first ones, you know. So if I move this here and I move that there, then I forget what the board is going to look like once I've moved things around. So, yeah. That is definitely not my game. Now give me a cribbage board, and I can do pretty well. But you don't have to hold as much in your head then. You know, it's hand by hand. Yeah. It was funny one time, my husband and his brother were playing chess, and my brother-in-law had his then toddler son sitting on his lap, and he wanted to play too, right? So he was taking pieces off the board, and they didn't notice for a while until it's like, wait, where did my pawn go? And then they look, and he's got it in his little, you know, chubby toddler fist. It's like, oh, you little turkey. It was like, yeah, he wanted to play too. Although he certainly didn't understand how it worked. It's just, oh, they're taking pieces off the board. Okay, I'll take one too. Okay, 150. Okay, again, I'm going to just use a small piece for that one that's tucked up in that corner. Because of the way this shaped, I like to come sort of from the right, if I can, rather than from the left, although I will do runs from the left if it makes more sense. But in this case, I'm going to just do this one stitch by itself and then attach a longer thread later to work the bigger section next to it. Yeah, actually even checkers I'm not good at because I don't know. I can only plan ahead so much before my brain refuses to hold any more information. Oh dear. I'm going to add another thread down here when I get there. Yeah. Like I said earlier, with this color, there is so much of it all scattered across this area. I'm going to end up with several threads. So I had a friend who said they play cribbage with me if I play chess with them. I was like, okay, fine. But yeah. They discovered playing chess with me isn't that fun because I'm too easy to beat. I'm not a challenge at all. Yeah, cribbage or Sudoku. That one I'm pretty good at. Yeah, I've been playing an online one and playing the hardest, the evil, they call it. And I've been able to solve them without any hints or mistakes so far. Like a couple dozen of them, so yeah. have to use the pencil marks and stare at it for quite a while sometime. And then, yeah, if you go a while without entering a value, it kind of prompts you if you want to use a hint. It's like, no, I don't. Although I said once really frustrating is when you finally give up and do use a hint, and you think you're at that point where if you just find one of them correctly, it will unlock all the others, and then it doesn't. Because, yeah, I love that point where you find that critical one, and the next thing you know, it's like, okay, now I know if 3 is here, it's not here, which means it's a 6, which, and it just all starts falling into place. That's always the funnest part. So I said all blue with the occasional purple, so here's a purple. Just a single stitch there with the purple. Okay. So yeah, we reached all the way to the bottom. So now we've got to go upwards again a bit. And then work my way down again. Okay, 791. Yeah, I wonder if it's related to the dyscalculia I've mentioned before, where it's like even just doing simple mental math, like adding two-digit numbers, is tough because like you figure out the ones column, then by the time I figured out the tens column, I forgot what the ones column was, and if I go back to do the ones column, I can't remember the tens column now. Like somebody said, it's like you try to write numbers in sand, and by the time you get back to them, they filled in again. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. It wasn't just me. I know I finally have a word for it. And it comes with other things like having difficulty knowing sort of where your body ends, so you're clumsy and walk into things, which is definitely me. Yeah, I always have, like I say, bruises of unknown origin on my body. Like I've often said, you would think after how many years here I would remember where all the walls are, but you would be wrong. Ugh. So, yeah, closing in on 73% or 35,000 done. So 36,000 should be 75%, I think, or close to it. Again, I'm not sure because my mental math is not great. Oh. But yes, 48,000 stitches. Each quarter is multiples of 12, so that should mean 36,000 is 75%, but we'll see when we get there. Okay. Yeah, it was funny. I remember saying about how people add different numbers differently, and yeah, the Common Core way is often the way my brain does it. Like somebody says, like if you're adding what's 9 plus 7, my brain says, well, 10 plus 7 is 17 and 9 is one less, so it must be 16, and then other people do it different ways. Yeah. I had someone who said they did it as 7 doubled is 14 plus 2 for the 9 is 16. Like, yeah, it's wild all the different ways we find to come to the same answer. Well, just like I read that, there's people who don't see pictures in their mind at all, which I see very vivid ones. People they said there's a whole spectrum of, you see it in like perfect, picture perfect movie quality to blurry to nothing at all. And I said, they said if, 0 is seeing nothing and 5 is the movie quality, I'm around a 4 to a 5. It sort of depends. But yeah, I'd say a 4. Really, really close to. like a perfect picture, but a little fuzzy. But yeah. Because my husband says he actually sees things in like 4D in his mind, and that he can take them apart and put them back together, which is why he's so good at mechanical stuff and designing stuff, because, yeah. He thought everyone could do that. I'm like, no, not everyone can. There was someone who said, too, they had worked at the drugstore for years, and they actually had a 3D like map in their head of where everything was. So they had worked there long enough that you could ask them, where's this product? And they could say, okay, aisle 3, 4 shelves up and this far in from the right. It was just like, okay, mind blowing. But they said they just in their head sort of go through all the aisles and, up and down the shelves, and yeah, they had a picture in there, had a perfect map of where everything was. Just like, wow, they must not misplace stuff as much as I do. 'Cause, yeah, it's funny for all saying I have vivid pictures in my mind, and yet if I try to picture the last place I was using something, forget it. It's gone. I'll only remember it once I actually find the object, and that triggers the memory, right? But that's not much good to me while I'm still looking for the darn thing. Oh dear. So yeah, I usually work top down, but as I said, it's been definitely more of a bottom up from the left hand edge over to the right today. Just, that's what made sense. Okay, I'm actually going to do this whole run, the lower legs, and then come back and cross the upper ones and then park. Yeah, I had knitting patterns when they described in words. I often had trouble constructing the picture in my mind of how the garment construction was. It wasn't until I actually started knitting it that it would make sense to me. Yeah. Yeah, somebody said they started off as a sewer and then did knitting. That kind of helped them because they already knew different ways of constructing garments mentally. Yeah, to translate that into knitting uses some of the same principles. Look at that, I've done 234, 234. Okay, I think I'm gonna actually park this down here, because otherwise I've been looking ahead and I would have to sort of go all the way back up here to avoid closing stuff in. So I'm gonna kind of change how I do this. So that way I can just continue on in my downwards direction. So sometimes I have to split up the color blocks so that I don't have to sort of reset, go back to the top to avoid closing things in. Sometimes I prefer not to do that, because at that point I have to sort of unthread all of them and, you know, get them all nice and neat again. And yeah, a lot of times I'd rather just continue on downwards and fill it all in before I go back to the top. So instead, I'm going to do these 2 stitches here, and then I'm going to park it up higher. Yeah, oh, make sure I grab the correct thread there. As you can see, I've got several here, so, oh, and that unthreaded, yeah. Sometimes happens when I have lots of them. So I'm gonna do these 2. And I'm gonna park it, and I'm gonna unthread it because it's gonna be a while. I'm not gonna get to this color again until I've traveled back down from the top. So just gonna not bother leaving that threaded that way. I can do these 2 stitches. Go. It's that way I can do these 2. And that way, like I said, I can continue carrying on down to the bottom of the piece without closing anything in. So again, do this, put a park. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from that corner. And again, unthread because I'm not going to get to it for a bit. And go. Okay, that way I can do this one. There. So again, I'm just, yes, this block of color goes, you know, further over to the right, but I'm gonna cut it off at a certain point and just, yeah. Oh, I parked that. I marked that differently from where I parked it, yeah. Let's fix that. Put it 2 over, not 3 over. There we go. Okay, so that one. And this is too short to do anymore, so tie it off. fits. It doesn't really matter if I stitch over the grid line because I got the big long one on the edge there to pull from. Okay. Alright, and then another thread there. Let's see, this one, how long is it? Yeah, it's somewhat. Okay, 791 again. I think actually, yeah, I'm gonna just do a short piece for the 2 in the corner there and then continue on with the other thread that is already attached at that point, rather than attaching a long piece. I'll be adding another long piece, but probably further over to the right. It'll just make sense then. Yeah, I think that other needle I discarded, yeah, that was the problem because none of my threads are shredding anymore. So yeah, the eye of the needle can get rough after a while, and it's time to replace it. You actually only had a needle break on me once or twice. I was trying to readjust a thread that was already stitched, kind of just get it to lie flat, and it went snap right through the eye. It was like, oh, okay. I'd never had that happen to me before. Ooh. There, perfect. So did those 2 by themselves. And do these ones. Okay, so there's 2 places that I can park this, either over here or further down. I think I'm going to go further down because this piece is long enough to do more than 1 stitch. Yeah, whereas if it was only long enough to do 1 stitch, I would have parked it over next to that 1 stitch. Make sure I'm in the right place. There. So I'm going to park it down here. I may actually end up doing both the stitches at the bottom and the one to the right with the same thread. We'll see. It all depends. It's always so satisfying to reach the bottom. Alright, this will be just enough to do 2 more, which is perfect because I'll do all those ones to the left of it, and then those 2. And there'll be 2 threads I can tie off and be done with. pin stitching, because obviously I don't want to pin stitch below the edge of the design because it won't be stitched over, and then you'll see them. You can see them a little bit there. Of course, once they're stitched over, it's not a problem, but yeah, if you stitch past the edge of the design, then you won't cover them up, and you don't want that. So. Okay, so what I said I was going to do with this other thread, select the one that is. Okay. So I'm going to do these 4. Park it ready to do the last 3 in that area. And I think this thread is still a fairly decent length, so I'm going to stitch cross as I go this time because I want the thread to end up on the other side. Yeah. So that I can carry on with it there. There, and I think I'm actually going to unthread that because, yeah, I'm going to have to go back to the top and fill in before I can get to that thread again. So this will be the last one I can do at the bottom here, and I think that is where I'm going to take a break. So do these 3. This one. Actually, I can also do these 2 without closing anything in, so that's what I'll do. Park that, mark it. There we go. Wow, 310 done this session. Well, look at that. We're at 34,998, so really close to 35,000. My gosh. You know what? Why don't I just do a couple more? Yeah. Bring it to that nice even 35,000. Yeah, so we're close to 73. That makes sense because 1% is 480 stitches. So 36,000 should be, yeah. Should be 3/4 done. We're at 35,000, so that makes sense, yeah. So I did these two, parked it there. There we go. Now that we're at a nice even 35,000 completed. So yeah, that was fun. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today and hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.